The lights inside the New York studio burned hotter than usual, washing the stage in a glossy TV glow that made everything feel exaggerated. Theatrical, exactly the environment actor Ricky Gervais thrived in. His studio audience was warmed up, caffeinated, and ready to laugh at whatever he tossed their way. That's what they came for. Jokes, jabs, and Gervais's trademark smirk that told them who they should laugh at before he even delivered the punchline. Tonight, he thought that target would be easy. Backstage, actor Jonathan Roumie stood with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the monitor, showing Ricky Gervais's opening monologue. He watched Gervais stride across the stage, cue cards in hand, cracking jokes about celebrity vanity, woke culture, and of course his own disdain for earnestness. The usual routine. But then Jonathan Roumie's name flashed onto the screen behind him. Gervais turned to the audience with exaggerated surprise. Oh, look, America's most beloved on-screen messiah, or as I like to call him. He paused, letting the anticipation build. The only man in Hollywood who still expects people to believe in miracles. The audience erupted in laughter. Jonathan Roumie didn't flinch. He'd expected cheap shots. He didn't come to a late-night show to be treated fairly. He came because he wanted his message to be heard. Even in an environment designed to dismantle perceived piety, he planned to do the opposite of what Gervais expected. Gervais continued, strutting theatrically. He gave a public address last week about the power of hope in a cynical world. Very profound, like a self-help guru, but with better wardrobe. More laughter, more applause. Jonathan Roumie's jaw tightened, not out of anger, but focus. He didn't fear ridicule. He'd been mocked by older politicians, celebrities, activists, journalists, even online trolls. Every time he sharpened, hardened. Rose, a producer, approached him. You're up in 3 minutes. Just a heads up, Ricky's going to poke you a bit. Standard stuff. Jonathan Roumie smiled gently. He can try. Out on stage, Gervais kept going, voice high, gestures dramatic, baiting the crowd. He said, and I quote, "True strength lies not in cynicism, but in compassion." He held his chest in mock sincerity. Ah, sweetheart, that's adorable. When you grow up, maybe you'll realize it's all just a cosmic joke. The audience howled. Jonathan Roumie stepped forward into the hallway as the stage manager called out, "Everyone clear the path. Actor Jonathan Roumie to stage." The band struck a playfully irreverent tune, the kind used when producers expect the guest to be flustered or thrown off balance. But as Jonathan Roumie approached the curtain, the studio air shifted slightly. People sensed it. Assistants slowed. Camera operators adjusted nervously. Even the audience, still laughing, felt a subtle rising tension. He paused behind the curtain for half a second. Let him laugh, he thought, because I'm about to remind them what truth sounds like. The announcer boomed. Please welcome actor Jonathan Roumie. He stepped out, shoulders squared, chin high. The cheers were mixed. Half genuine applause, half sarcastic whoops from Gervais fans. Gervais turned towards him with that familiar mocking smile. Jonathan Roumie smiled back, calm, composed, because Ricky Gervais didn't know it yet. But tonight, the audience wouldn't be laughing at him. They'd be listening to him. The applause softened into a curious hush as Jonathan Roumie crossed the stage, his steps unhurried, a rhythm that didn't match the upbeat band music trying desperately to set a comedic tone. He shook Gervais' hand, firm, controlled, while Gervais's grip was light, almost theatrical. Jonathan Roumie, everyone, Gervais said, overplaying enthusiasm. The man who makes cynicism look utterly inefficient, which means he's also the first guest I've had who probably thinks my jokes need a blessing. Laughter. Jonathan Roumie didn't react. He simply folded his hands, one leg crossed over the other, posture perfect, like he was about to deliver a sermon, not banter on a late-night stage. Gervais lifted an eyebrow at his stillness. No comeback? No heavenly clapback? Did your spiritual advisor forget to pack your lines? Some chuckles bubbled up, but weaker now, unsure. Jonathan Roumie leaned into the mic. Ricky, I speak from conviction. I don't need a script telling me what to feel. A ripple of ooh rolled across the audience. Gervais smirked. Oh, so you're saying I need a script? Jonathan Roumie didn't blink. Ricky, your monologue literally flashed on the screen behind you. We all saw it. The audience burst into startled laughter. Not forced laughter, not polite laughter, real laughter at Gervais' expense. Gervais' smile faltered for the first time. He regained composure quickly. Okay, touche. But tell me, How does someone as earnest as you get up in front of crowds and pretend you understand the world's misery when you spend your days playing a character of pure good? Jonathan Roumie tilted his head, his expression softening in that deceptively gentle way he used whenever he was about to make a profound point. Pretend, he repeated. Ricky, I've lived through my own share of darkness. I've faced struggles and doubts that have nothing to do with the script. I've dealt with people who try to twist my words and intentions. His eyes locked onto Gervais. And now I'm sitting across from one. The audience exploded, half cheering, half gasping, all fully alive. Gervais blinked rapidly. Wow, okay, someone came in swinging tonight. Jonathan Roumie smiled. You started the swinging, Ricky. I'm just better at redirecting the energy. More cheers. The energy in the room shifted. Palpable, undeniable. Even the band members exchanged glances like, oh, this is not going the way producers expected. Gervais cleared his throat. Well, let's talk about that address you gave. You know, the one the internet said sounded like it was written by an angel on a sugar rush. Laughter returned, forced but present. Jonathan Roumie tucked a strand of hair behind his ear. Oh, I saw that tweet. But then I read the comments underneath it. He paused. And every single one said the same thing. Ricky Gervais didn't even watch the full speech. A wave of laughter hit harder this time, directed not at Jonathan Roumie, but at Gervais. Gervais raised both hands, mock defensive. I watched it. I just found it a bit much. He didn't sound convincing. Jonathan Roumie leaned forward, voice low, sharp as a blade. Then why did you cut the part where I talked about personal struggles? Or the part about finding common ground through shared humanity? Or the part where I quoted one of your own heroes, George Carlin, about the importance of questioning everything? The crowd roared again. Cheers, whistles, applause. Gervais opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Jonathan Roumie settled back in his chair, composed, confident. Ricky, he said softly, I didn't come here to be the punchline. He locked eyes with Gervais. And right now, neither does your audience. The studio went wild, and for the first time in years, actor Ricky Gervais looked like a man who had finally realized he'd underestimated the wrong man. The temperature in the studio shifted, subtle but unmistakable. Gervais's stage confidence, normally effortless and bulletproof, wavered like a weak signal. Jonathan Roumie felt it. The audience felt it. Even the camera operators who'd spent years watching him bury celebrity guests exchanged looks like, is this really happening? Gervais tapped his pen against his note cards, pretending to search for his next punchline. So, he said, smirking thinly, you think you can walk onto my stage and fact-check me? Jonathan Roumie lifted his chin slightly. No, he replied. I think I can walk onto your stage and speak honestly. That's different. The crowd let out another, ooh, sharper this time, like a jab Gervais didn't see coming. He tried again. Well, honesty is cute until it becomes preachy. Your address was called Divinely Naive by half the media. Jonathan Roumie didn't flinch. Half the media also called the idea of a humble, honest artist a fantasy, he said calmly. Turns out they were wrong about that too. Laughter and claps, not for him, for Jonathan Roumie. Gervais took a longer pause, his smile tightening. Jonathan Roumie continued before he could recover. You invited me on your show, expecting me to crumble because I speak from the heart. But Ricky, I didn't become the actor I am by accident, nor did my message resonate with millions by being naive. A man in the audience shouted, Tell him! Cheers followed. Gervais raised a hand, trying to reel the room back in. Okay, settle down. I know everyone loves a good sermon on late-night TV. Jonathan Roumie cut in. They love authenticity, Ricky. That's why they're responding. Gervais blinked. Jonathan Roumie leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low and steady. You mock my speech, but at least I wrote it myself. Can you say the same about your monologues? Gasps, a few nervous laughs. Someone yelled, Ouch! Gervais's face tightened this time, visibly. That's rich, he replied, coming from someone who spends his days reading other people's lines. Jonathan Roumie didn't smile, didn't twitch, didn't take the bait. Ricky, when I perform, it's to inspire. When you speak, it's to provoke. The audience murmured, mixed shock and growing excitement. Gervais adjusted his tie, suddenly restless. Well then, let's provoke a little more, he said. You claim you're a voice of hope. Prove it. Give me one line, just one, from that legendary address that wasn't a recycled platitude. Jonathan Roumie's expression softened. His voice touched with steel. Here's one you cut from your coverage, he said. Then he quoted himself, "True light doesn't just illuminate the path, it reveals the shared humanity in those walking beside you, even the ones who choose darkness." The audience burst into applause, enough to shake the rafters. Gervais blinked twice. He opened his mouth to joke, but nothing came. Jonathan Roumie finished calmly. "And judging by the reaction of your audience, a little light doesn't feel so hostile anymore." He exhaled a small, involuntary sound, the sound of a man realizing he just lost control of his own show. The audience cheered again, this time even louder. Jonathan Roumie sat back, composed, victorious. Gervais shuffled his cards. For the first time in the episode, he didn't know where to go next. Gervais cleared his throat, shuffling his note cards the way a magician does when he's out of tricks. The energy in the studio, usually his weapon, was slipping through his fingers like sand. He glanced at the producer's booth. No help. They were frozen too, watching the shift unfold in real time. He forced a smile. "So Jonathan, you've clearly come here ready to preach." Jonathan Roumie crossed his legs slowly, deliberately. "Ricky, I came here ready to talk about the deeper aspects of our shared human experience. You turned it into a battle of wits." A few audience members clapped. Not ironically, not sarcastically, genuinely. Gervais's eyebrow twitched. He tried to regain the upper hand. "Well, in fairness, this is a comedy show. I make jokes. That's kind of my job." Jonathan Roumie nodded. "Right, but there's a difference between comedy and hiding behind comedy to avoid genuine connection." A hush fell over the room. Everyone heard the implication. Everyone waited for his reaction. Gervais blinked, taken aback. "That's a bold accusation." Jonathan Roumie held his gaze. "I didn't come here to accuse you. I came here to tell my truth. And the truth is, you mock what you don't want to truly feel or understand." The audience gasped quietly, but enough that Gervais flinched. He leaned forward, trying one last time to steer the conversation. "Well, what is it I supposedly don't understand? Enlighten me." Jonathan Roumie inhaled slowly, his voice calm but unshakably firm. "You don't understand the quiet strength of faith that some people carry. You don't understand the profound hope that guides those who choose compassion over cynicism. You don't understand that your jokes sometimes land on people who are actually seeking meaning, not just laughter." A wave of applause rolled across the studio, heavy, warm, almost protective. Gervais tightened his jaw. "And you're saying you understand all that?" Jonathan Roumie didn't blink. "Yes, because I've lived it. Because the people who find solace in my work are the people who shape me. Because I wasn't raised to laugh at everything at the beautiful in humanity. I was raised to cherish it." More applause, the kind that shakes a studio. Gervais forced a stiff smile. "Well, that's sweet." Jonathan Roumie cut in, voice sharp as a knife. "Sweet doesn't make audiences turn on you, Ricky. Sincerity does." The audience erupted again. Laughter mixed with cheers, not laughter with Gervais. Laughter at the situation. Gervais sat back, exhaling sharply. This was no longer an interview. It was a takeover. Jonathan Roumie leaned in, finishing the round with precision. "You invited me to be a caricature, Ricky, but the only authentic reaction happening right now is how your own audience is responding." The crowd broke into the loudest cheer yet, people clapping, whistling, even standing. Gervais looked out at them, genuinely rattled. He had lost the room. Jonathan Roumie, he sat there like he owned it. The audience was buzzing now, leaning forward, whispering, waiting for whatever was going to come next. Jonathan Roumie felt it. He could practically feel the shift, like gravity had tilted in his direction. Even the stage light seemed warmer on his side of the desk. Gervais exhaled, finally dropping the forced grin. "Okay," he said, tapping his pen. "You've made your point, but let's not pretend your address didn't get dragged all over the internet for being a bit preachy." Jonathan Roumie tilted his head. "Dragged? Or selectively edited by people who didn't want viewers to hear the parts that resonated deeply?" The crowd murmured. Someone shouted, "Show it!" Gervais froze. He hadn't expected that. Jonathan Roumie smiled, the kind of smile that meant he'd been waiting for that exact moment. "Funny you say that," he replied, reaching into his blazer pocket. "Because your team cut out the part where I talked about embracing vulnerability, or the part where I quoted an agnostic philosopher about the human yearning for meaning, or the part where I called out superficial entertainment for blurring truth with cheap laughs." Then he held up his phone. "I brought the full clip." The audience erupted into applause, cheers bouncing off the studio walls. Gervais blinked rapidly. You what?" Jonathan Roumie stood, walking toward the giant studio screen behind them. I came prepared. I knew you'd mock the message. So let's show the audience what you didn't want them to hear. The room exploded, cheering, clapping, people standing up with their phones out. Gervais panicked. Wait, hold on. My show this isn't. Jonathan Roumie turned to him, his tone steady but merciless. Ricky, if you're confident in your jokes, let's see if they hold up against the unedited truth. Gasps, whistles, the power dynamic had flipped completely. Even the producers hesitated, unsure what to do. Gervais raised a hand toward the booth, but the audience overpowered him. Play it! Play it! Play it! Jonathan Roumie stepped aside, his arms crossed, calm as a storm, waiting to break. You invited me here, Ricky, he said softly. You just didn't expect me to bring the receipts. The chant grew louder. The lights brightened. Gervais's hand dropped to the desk, defeated. For the first time in his career, the audience wanted the guest more than the host. And he knew the moment that video played, the night would belong to Jonathan Roumie. The studio lights dimmed just enough to signal something big was about to happen. The audience, already electrified, leaned so far forward it looked like the entire front row was about to fall out of their seats. Gervais swallowed hard, tapping his cue cards against the desk as if doing so would magically give him back control. It didn't. Jonathan Roumie stood confidently beside the massive screen, his phone still in his hand, waiting, calm, collected, almost serene like a surgeon right before making the decisive cut. A producer in the booth finally broke. Roll it, he said over the headset, and suddenly the screen lit up. There he was, actor Jonathan Roumie, delivering the unedited version of his public address, not the chopped, clipped, tweet-friendly version Gervais had mocked, but the real one. The audience fell into total silence. First came the line about shared vulnerability. Not what makes us different, but what makes us universally human in our struggles and our search for peace. Then the part about overcoming personal darkness and the families who found solace in his faith. Then the moment he looked into the camera and said, true connection isn't a joke, and genuine compassion isn't just entertainment. A direct blow to everything Gervais' brand sometimes relied on. Gervais sat frozen, hands clasped, eyes narrowing, not in confidence but in dread. The audience didn't laugh, they didn't whisper, they didn't even breathe loudly. They listened, and when the full clip ended, the room erupted into applause, louder than anything Gervais had received that night. Jonathan Roumie didn't turn around immediately. He let the crowd react, let the truth breathe. Then he faced Gervais. See, he said softly but with a razor's edge, you mocked a message you never truly presented. You attacked words you never gave your audience a chance to hear. The audience roared again. Cheers, whistles, even a few standing ovations. Gervais forced a laugh, thin and uncomfortable. Well, that certainly was something. Jonathan Roumie raised an eyebrow. That something was sincerity, Ricky. He exhaled deeply, defeated but trying to mask it with humor. You know, guests usually come here to have fun. Jonathan Roumie walked back toward his seat, heels clicking in a slow, deliberate rhythm. I'm having plenty of fun, he replied. You just didn't expect your audience to enjoy it too. The audience howled. Gervais sat back, fingers interlaced, gaze lowered. For the first time in nearly 2 decades of hosting, he wasn't the center of attention. Actor Jonathan Roumie was. And everyone in the room knew they weren't watching a guest. They were watching a profound shift. The applause kept rolling long after the video ended. Gervais tried to speak twice, but the noise swallowed him whole. It was the kind of reaction every late-night host dreams of, except it wasn't for him. It was for Jonathan Roumie. Jonathan Roumie sat back down, crossing his legs, calm as a sage who had just shared timeless wisdom. The band members exchanged stunned glances. A producer mouthed, "Oh my God." Even the cameraman closest to Gervais shook his head like he'd just witnessed history. Gervais inhaled sharply. Well, that was certainly dramatic, he said, voice cracking just slightly. Jonathan Roumie smiled politely. You wanted authenticity. The audience finally got it. A few people cheered again. Gervais shuffled his cards anxiously this time. Let's move on, he said. Your fans might be loving this, but my viewers come here for comedy, not spiritual lectures. Jonathan Roumie leaned in just enough to make the mic catch every word. Then maybe you should ask yourself why they just reacted stronger to the truth than to any joke tonight. The room erupted, laughs mixed with applause. Gervais looked genuinely rattled now, shoulders stiff, eyes down. The rhythm of the show, normally a fast, sharp dance, had become heavy, dragging under the weight of his own miscalculation. He tried one last jab. Well, Jonathan, I'm glad you enjoyed hijacking my show. Jonathan Roumie didn't miss a beat. Ricky, you invited me here. I just didn't play the cynical role you wrote for me. Another explosion of cheers. A woman shouted, "He schooled him." The audience laughed. Gervais swallowed visibly. You certainly surprised me, he said. Jonathan Roumie softened his tone, not cruel but final. Ricky, you can mock me all you want, but if you're going to talk about my words, present them honestly. Your audience deserves at least that much. The audience applauded again, this time slower, deeper, more thoughtful. Jonathan Roumie had won them. Gervais had lost them, and everyone in the studio knew it. The second the cameras cut to commercial, the studio air changed. The applause still echoed faintly, but the tension behind the stage snapped tight like a stretched wire, ready to break. Gervais pulled off his earpiece, avoiding eye contact with everyone, including Jonathan Roumie. Producers rushed toward him, whispering fast, frantic things like, "What happened out there?" And we've never seen the audience flip like that. Gervais brushed them off, jaw clenched, clearly furious, but trying not to explode on live mic. Jonathan Roumie stepped off the stage with slow, controlled steps, his posture straight, his expression steady. Staff members he didn't even know whispered, "That was insane," and he didn't see that coming as he passed. He didn't gloat, he didn't smirk, he just walked. A young intern jogged up beside him, breathless. "Mr. Roumie, just so you know, your full speech clip is already blowing up online. Someone in the audience recorded the moment you played it." Jonathan Roumie raised an eyebrow. "Already?" He nodded quickly. "It has over 200,000 views in 10 minutes. Jonathan Roumie allowed himself a tiny smile, not out of vanity, but out of vindication. Meanwhile, across the hall, Gervais stormed into his dressing room, slamming the door so loudly the mirrors rattled. A producer followed him in, whisper yelling, "Ricky, this is all over X already. People are saying he showed you up on your own show." Gervais paced, running a hand through his hair. "They weren't supposed to cheer him," he snapped. "They're my audience." The producer hesitated. "Tonight, they weren't." Gervais froze just for a second before muttering, "He ambushed me. He planned that." But deep down, he knew the truth. He underestimated Jonathan Roumie's genuine conviction, and the audience punished him for it. Back in the hallway, Jonathan Roumie checked his phone. Notifications poured in like a tidal wave. Journalists, influencers, and commentators already calling the moment the Gervais Grace Challenge. A message from his publicist flashed on the screen. "You handled him perfectly." Interviews stacking up for tomorrow. Jonathan Roumie slid his phone into his pocket, straightened his blazer, and walked toward the exit. He came onto the show as a guest. He left as the headline. By the time Jonathan Roumie stepped into his black SUV, the internet was already on fire. X, Instagram, YouTube, every platform lit up like a switchboard. The clip of him confronting Gervais had exploded past 1.2 million views in under an hour. Hashtags like #RoumieWins, #TruthOverCynicism, and #Gervais Grace Challenge dominated the trending page. Jonathan Roumie watched the numbers rise as his driver pulled into traffic. Comment after comment poured in. He walked onto his stage and changed the atmosphere. Gervais underestimated the power of sincerity. I've never seen an audience turn like that. Even unexpected voices chimed in. A famous philosopher tweeted, "Gervais brought a joke, Roumie brought a truth." Late-night fans, Gervais' own fan base, were split. Some defended him, but many admitted the truth. He didn't get flustered once. Gervais tried to roast him. He roasted the script of cynicism. Jonathan Roumie refreshed again. A spirituality page posted a slowed-down clip of him saying, "Genuine compassion isn't just entertainment," overlaid with uplifting music. It already had 500K likes. Meanwhile, Gervais's official account stayed silent. His team was clearly scrambling. Jonathan Roumie leaned back, letting out a slow breath. He didn't need to celebrate. The internet was doing it for him. Tonight wasn't just a moment. It was a shift, and everyone online knew it. The next morning, Manhattan woke to headlines everywhere. Digital billboards, phone alerts, trending feeds. Jonathan Roumie's clip had officially crossed 10 million views, becoming the most shared cultural moment of the week. Gervais finally broke his silence. At 9:14 a.m., his account posted, "Last night's interview got spirited. More thoughts tonight." But the replies drowned him instantly. "Spirited, bro, you got schooled by sincerity. Just admit he beat you. You owe your audience the full speech." Jonathan Roumie, sipping his morning coffee in his LA apartment, simply smirked. His phone buzzed. Publicist. "Statement approved. Post at 10 o'clock." At exactly 10 a.m., he released his message. I don't go on shows to be mocked. I go to share truth, and last night humanity heard it. 4 minutes later, it had 300,000 likes. Back at CBS headquarters, Gervais' producers debated damage control. Should he apologize? Joke about it? Ignore it? None of their options looked good because the public had already decided. Clips of Jonathan Roumie holding his ground flooded TikTok. Edits comparing his composure to Gervais' frustration racked up millions of views. Even neutral cultural critics admitted he'd flipped the power dynamic live on Gervais' turf. By noon, a viral comment summed it up perfectly. He didn't beat him, he changed the room. Jonathan Roumie looked out his window at the Hollywood Hills, the sun hitting the glass. He hadn't planned to spark a cultural moment, but he didn't shy away from it either. Gervais had invited him expecting ratings. Instead, he got a reckoning. Actor Jonathan Roumie walked onto that stage as a guest. He walked off as a force. And by the time late night rolled around, everyone knew Ricky Gervais wasn't the only star anymore.